Hi, I'm Bonnie McCaffrey, and thank you so much for coming back for another vidcast. Let's meet Juanita Yeager, who lives down here in Florida now. We're in her studio, and she does the most stunning floral quilts. Hi, Juanita.
Hi, how are you doing, Bonnie?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me over to see your quilts, and they're gorgeous.
Thank you.
So tell me about this first one here.
This is hibiscus, my interpretation of a hibiscus. What I'm doing now currently with my work is to do watercolor pigments on silk broadcloth.
Is this a whole cloth, basically?
It's a whole cloth.
Really? So these aren't applique. This is painted?
It's all painted.
And you're going to show us a little bit about how you do that. I can't wait.
Do that, yes.
This is just gorgeous, and your quilting is amazing.
I've taught myself how to do this.
Good for you. You know, you get beautiful, intense color.
The watercolor pigments do that. I used artist grade, so they're highly pigmented, and you can get wonderful degrees of shading and shadows with using the same pigment.
And I also love how, even though this is a pink flower, there's other colors in it. It's not just pink. It's like light and dark pink, and then it looks like you could have some orange and maybe
a
some
little
yellow.
Orange and some yellow in there to get some shadows and highlights.
Oh,
As I said, I love flowers. I don't do dirt, but as far as
you mean like plants and stuff?
Oh, I don't do
No.
plants and weeding and
I'm
that sort of
with you,
thing.
Megan.
No,
thank
so
you.
this is my gardening. Is the flowers that I paint.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and what a way to do it.
Yes.
No dirt in the fingernails, no bugs.
That's true.
No
That's
weeds.
true. No weeds.
Good.
No weeds.
Oh my gosh. And the quilting is just stunning. And they lay so beautifully flat. Do you have a secret?
Well, the secret is I use warm and natural batting, but I also use a layer of felt, wool felt.
Really?
I use the 35% wool composition and 65% rayon. That's that other layer in there, and they just block beautifully.
They
and
do.
lay flat, and I like the definition that you get in the stitching.
Yeah. This is so pretty.
Most people know me for my flowers that are really bold and bright colors, but I just had a love for snowdrops. Well, it's kind of hard to paint a white flower on a white background, so
but you did.
I thought, let's do a little bit of a little green blue and
oh my gosh,
and see if that would kind of get me the shape. This was one of my first ones. After learning the process or teaching myself this process, and so I sent it and to the Mancuso show last year.
Yeah,
not this past, but the year before, and I was quite happy. It won a prize. It won Best Machine Quilting, which was like a very good surprise.
Good for you.
For somebody who was a diehard hand quilter for years and years and years. So that was. It said I had arrived.
So it used to take you a long time to quilt by hand quilting.
By hand quilting, it did. It did.
And so how long is it taking you now to quilt a piece like this?
Well, I can really start to finish this in probably about 2 weeks.
Nice.
Because the painting doesn't take long.
Yeah.
That's the quilting is the most intensive part of it. And as you can see, I love really, really dense quilting.
Yes. And it has meaning. I mean, it really gives shape to the flowers.
Yes.
Yeah. And the background quilting is really fascinating as well.
Yeah, that's what I like too. I like that. And I like the eclecticness of the designs, and it's just not all the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Hey, the background's not white.
The background is not white. And this is a little bit of a different technique in that the shapes were masked out with freezer paper. These shapes. Yeah. And then I put a silk screen over the top and silk screened the background.
Oh, okay.
With just regular thickened dye.
Nice.
Portion thickened dye first.
And then peeled off your...
And then peeled it off and washed it, and went through that process and then did the painting.
Okay, now we're going to get set up, and you're going to show us how you do this.
That's very good.
So stick with us. We'll be right back. Okay. All right, Juanita, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I see you have your fabric stretched on here. What's going on there first? What do you need to do first?
I make myself a print surface, which consists of a 1/2 inch foam core. For my bigger works, I have a really big piece of foam core. Sometimes as big as 4 feet by 6 feet, which I put on my easel. And I use a layer of warm and natural batting, and then I'll cover it with a piece of acrylic felt. So it's padded, but it's padded.
Yeah.
And then that makes it easier for me to really stretch. I'm using the pins.
I see.
Tidy pins is what they're called.
Cotton on top.
And no cotton on top. It's just the...
No, what?
Oh, this is the silk.
Oh, silk. It's
silk broadcloth is what I'm painting on.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it has a really great hand, and then it just there's just something with the watercolor pigments that acts really great with the silk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have your design drawn on here.
I have this design drawn, which I did with pencil, and the pencil is fine because when you get ready to quilt, you'll outline your flowers with the color that you're painted, and it'll go right over those lines, and you can't see the pencil line when you're done.
And what I really like is it makes it look like it's appliqued.
Right, it does.
It's a little trick.
Yeah, I've had people say, "Oh, that's appliqued," and I go, "Oh no, it's whole cloth." Whole cloth painted.
Gorgeous. Okay, so what do we have here?
What I have here, this is my paint palette, and I love these ceramic ones because they clean up so nicely. But I am using watercolor pigments, and I use two brands. I use Michael Graham's and a Daniel Smith. Those two I find to be the most pigmented in quality, artist grade, and I'm using soy milk.
So is this raw soy milk?
This is raw soy milk, which means it has no preservatives. And I make it myself by using soybeans that you buy dry in most Whole Food stores.
Right.
And you can just buy it by the pound, loose.
Just dry soybeans.
Dry soybeans. And you need to put them in some water, soak them. Usually 4 hours minimum. Sometimes I do it overnight. And then from that, you rinse them off, and then you put them in your blender. So for, let's say, 1/4 of a cup of dry soybeans, you need 3 to 4 cups of water.
Okay, 1/4 cup of soybeans that have been soaked.
That have been soaked and drained.
And how much water?
About 4 cups.
4 cups
of water.
In the blender.
In a blender. And you whirl it up until it looks like milk.
I'll bet it does.
It goes from sort of soft beige to really looking like milk.
How come it looks watery?
Because it is watery. Because then you have to strain it.
Oh. One more step there. Just one more thing. Okay, I get it now.
So then you put it through like a layer of muslin.
Okay.
Or old piece of cloth or something like that, and you strain it through, and then you squeeze it, and so what you wind up with these ground up soybeans that you proceed to throw down the garbage disposal.
It's okay.
But generally, when I make it up, I need to pre-soak my silk broadcloth because that is the process as well to prepare the fabric.
Raw soy milk and silk broadcloth,
which you soak in the milk, and then you hang to dry.
Before you draw on it.
And then I press it so that we press out the wrinkles from having wrung the soy milk out of it. And then you stretch it on your...
Okay, and you don't rinse it out.
No, don't.
You just soak it, let it dry, iron it.
Yes.
Mount it.
And mount it.
Right, and so you're mounting, I see you have it mounted on the board here.
Right, and I use tidy pins as opposed to T-pins.
Okay.
The T-pins tend to get entangled because of their construction. The tidy pins are so much nicer to use. This is a Japanese kind of technique, so they invented this soy milk as a fixative on silk centuries ago.
So it makes it permanent?
So it makes it permanent.
Wow.
I've tested it. I've put it through the washing machine. Not that I really want to wash any of my art quilts, but it will withstand a washing machine.
Wow.
And there's very little difference in the end results after you've washed it than what you did originally in the painting.
So we got paint and soy milk, raw soy milk, and you have a special brush here.
I use Simply Simmons brand paintbrushes, and I'm not sure what they were invented for. They're not watercolor brushes, probably acrylic brushes.
Okay.
But it's
a nice brush.
Just a nice brush, and it holds just the proper amount of paint. And I'm using the soy milk as a diluent for the watercolor paint. As opposed to watercolor painters using water.
Okay.
So
what are we going to do here? Show me how you do.
So usually I will wet my brush, and then I will dip it into the paint and get the value that I'm looking for. And from that point, I'll proceed to paint.
Okay.
So it's not a fast technique. You do have to take some care in your brush strokes.
So you're painting on dry fabric?
I'm painting on dry fabric.
Do you always paint on dry?
I always paint on dry. If you paint it on wet, then it would run. But there are there are times when you want to smush, when you want that slight gradation. So you can wet your brush with the soy milk and paint it onto the area.
Oh, so it waters it down.
So it waters it down, but it also makes it run into that area.
Makes it blendable?
It makes it blendable. Yep. So basically they're pretty much the same principles that a watercolor person would use, where I can go back once this is dry and add some blue to it and give it
like layering.
And like layering, and give it a different value, and or I could add some yellow, which would then change the color of what I'm applying. So that would be about the first step in dealing with this particular leaf. And the one thing about watercolor paint is the fact that if it's not as dark as you want, you can always go back and paint over.
Right.
It's easier or better if you start off a little lighter than maybe what you think you want.
Right.
Than to get it too dark.
Yeah.
Because I haven't found a way to undarken it. But that's just a happy mistake, and you just kind of do something else.
Oh, it's even better because it's really dark.
Yeah. So, you can kind of do that.
So, okay, do you have to let this dry before you do? I see you got like a pink there.
I do need to dry this, because if you don't, then you're going to have that bleeding problem, so it will bleed into your green. So it dries usually pretty fast, and here in Florida, things tend to dry a little bit faster but you can always use your hair dryer.
I see.
Just if you're really in a hurry to speed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of do that too.
Now, do you have to heat set these when it's done?
No.
When it's done, it's done.
When it's done, it's done. What I do tend to do, I do iron with steam after I'm done.
Right.
So usually when I get through painting, I'm like, onto the sewing machine. Let's go cook this.
Let me ask you a little question.
Okay.
What's your philosophy of life?
Enjoy. Enjoy what you're doing, because if it's not fun, then go find something else to do. And I'm finding I'm having fun doing this.
You are having fun, and your quilts are absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
You're quite welcome.
And thank you all for coming. I hope you'll come back next month to see what I have for you then. Thanks for being with me.
Bye, Bonnie.